Hello and welcome to Funny Science Fiction, the live edition. Hey everybody, welcome to Funny Science Fiction, the live edition of this crazy, wacky podcast. So, I don't know why I did that. I just felt the need. Holy crap.
You know, right, it worked. Go with it.
All right. Well, it may not work again. Well, it worked tonight, I guess. All right. So this is the show where our guests try to MacGyver or MacGruber their way out of being on the show.
And before we get into tonight's show, we need to say thanks to our show partners, River City Tees and Level Up's Lightsabers.
Let's watch a quick video for each.
With over 700 designs to choose from, River City Tees has something for everyone. Need some new nerd merch? River City Tees has you covered. Need funny or sarcastic designs? River City Tees has you covered. Are you looking for a new logo or custom design? Whether you need 1 or 100, River City Tees has you covered. With multiple colors and options for each and every design. With things to choose from like shirts, hoodies, phone cases, coffee mugs, and so much more. Be sure to follow River City Tees on Facebook and Instagram. If you do, you'll get the latest on designs and information about upcoming sales. River City Tees. Let's make a shirt together.
I was just thinking, what condiment do you put on a hot dog?
I don't know. I don't think I want to know.
Nope. All right, let's watch the coolest video ever.
All right. I'm never unimpressed with that video.
No.
I still like it. It's so cool. And speaking of cool things and reasons why you guys should be checking out Level Up Lightsabers, if you're not already familiar with their product line and all the awesome things that they do, which we can bug Master Alan about this in just a moment because Alan White from Level Up Lightsabers is patiently waiting in the green room so we can bring him out here. But check out these super cool lightsabers, y'all. So not only do they have their standard, their basics, but they've got these whole new saga hilts out, and these are freaking amazing. So there's the Darth Vader, and if you're like, oh, it doesn't really look like Darth Vader. Yeah, it does. Shut up. It's amazing.
Aaron be wrong.
And then my favorite, though, is on page 2, and this needs to be a part of my life. It's named incorrectly. It's called the Pupil. It should be called the Skywalker, just to butthurt people because they don't pay attention to canon. But anyway, that's another story for another time.
Wow. That's the path we're going down tonight, Tim?
Just going right for it. So, but yeah, this is the hilt, man. This is so cool. Ray's hilt. It even does the little twisty thing up at the top. Yeah. It's pretty awesome. So we can talk to Master Allen about all of those.
But first, you have to let him into the show.
I know, and we will. Just okay. All right. So and before we bring everybody else in, there's one more thing. This was not in our notes, our show notes for tonight, but this is very important. So we had some auctions for Wish Upon a Teen, which is an awesome charity that we do work with, and we had a signed picture from Thundercats by Larry Kenny, who played Lion-O. Exactly. Thundercats. Oh, anyway. So that sold. We also had one from this past week's interview for David Sobolov, who's the voice behind The Flash's Gorilla Grodd. And also he's also on Legends of Tomorrow. But that one sold, but the person never paid for it. So we relisted it. And if you're wondering what that looks like and if it's something that you want, it's right here. It is a super cool photo signed by David Sobolov and marked for Gorilla Grodd. And we'll put a note to that link down into the comments here, which we'll get to in just a moment. But 100% of the profits for that auction go to benefit Wish Upon a Teen. Wish Upon a Teen is a Michigan-based charity who helps out sick kids in their time of need when they're stuck in hospitals for an extended stay. It's an amazing charity. I know them personally. They helped out my daughter during her 97-day hospital stay. And I cannot say enough good things about Wish Upon a Teen. All right. So with that being brought up, let's get into our show.
Right. Let's do this. Let's welcome to the show Aaron Elya of Catching Up with Aaron.
Yeah, look at him. He was like, "Oh, they're announcing me first."
This is not. It's not the order we discussed.
It's not, but that's what happens when you
the
trust
order
him.
we discussed was about who we were going to be talking to first. This is just introductions.
Oh, well, I can handle that.
Yeah, you're good.
All right. Up next, we have John Orlando of the Three Geeks Podcast, the PVDcast, and the only Mattlock podcast, Mattalk.
That's right. That's right. How's everybody doing tonight?
That's a legit thing. They have a podcast called Mattalk, which I thought they were joking the first time I heard it. The first time I think you and Jason talked about it, I was like, no, that's not. I'll be dipped. That's an actual podcast.
That thing actually exists.
And the shocking part of it, huge fan base. Well, maybe not huge, but pretty decent sized fan base, shall we say, which kind of blew our minds a little bit.
All right. And our last guest, certainly not least of our guests, our show partner, Alan White of Level Up Lightsabers.
It's our friendly neighborhood man. Heavy breathing.
This is the cool part. That's the switch. It's not a
That's so
button.
cool.
It's actually I've got a stack of them over here. We'll go through it. It'll be great.
I'm not giggling. You're giggling. Shut up.
No, Tim,
Okay.
you giggling.
All right, we got a ton of comments coming in, mostly from Jason Taylor, who has a man crush on John Orlando. But he, Kathleen's husband John says, "Happy Monday, guys." Jason says John Orlando is the hottest man in podcasting, next to Tim and Nick. It's got
So I'm third. Thanks.
clearly he didn't see Aaron or Alan there, and I feel offended for both.
Hey.
Or
of
is
them.
it just a three-way tie?
No, to be in the top three, how big of a sausage fest podcasting is? To be in the top three, that's pretty impressive.
So there's that.
It's Nick's mustache that got him in the top three.
Oh, don't even. Now he's trying to make up for it with
Oh, I do still exist. I see this. See how it is, Jason.
All right, John says, "I wonder if Raid filed the proper data work with the Republic to legally change her name to Skywalker."
It's a lot of work to change your name. It really is.
No, just it was written in canon, so we're good.
You guys
All
are
right,
nerds.
and he agrees that your product is awesome. It is awesome.
That's pretty cool.
So,
Agreed.
all right. So while we're talking tonight, I'll be popping some links into the chat there for everybody. And remember, if you're listening out on good old Facebook land and you want to interact with any of the three guests here or any of the three hosts, and you have something about one of the shows that we're going to be talking about tonight, if you're commenting through Facebook, please allow StreamYard to have access to your information. So not only can we know who we're talking to, it makes it easier for Big Brother to spy on you. So I'm sure that's a thing. I just put it out there for the tinfoil hat wearers. Make sure they know what's up.
Do you know how hard it is to find tinfoil hat and not aluminum foil?
We should probably start calling them aluminum foil hat wearers.
We probably should.
That's what Weird Al calls it.
Well, there you go. That's a safe bet then. If Weird Al's calling, that's like Star Wars canon right there. That's it. That's where we're going with it.
Weird Al, Star Wars canon. Yeah, I can see that.
You use that word a lot, canon.
Well, just in discussing Star Wars, especially.
He'll start using it enough that it no longer sounds like a word.
I just
It
call
happens.
it more in terms of like the Princess Bride, like inconceivable.
You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. All right. So tonight's festivities. So each of our guests has come prepared to talk about a movie that has not played well with science. a sci-fi movie that has not played well with science. Let's be more specific. So we're going to talk about, where did that movie go wrong? Why does it bother us? And did it affect how we view the movie? Because sometimes, even though a movie annoys us, we can still watch it. And sometimes those mistakes make a movie unwatchable. So we'll find out tonight where everybody stands on that. So we're going to start with Master Alan, because he is actually the impetus behind this whole discussion. So as he's getting going, if you hear the sound of nails and wood clanking, that is the soapbox that we told him to feel free to build. So, all right, Alan, preach it from the mountains, brother. Go for it. All right.
And I've done a handful of like TikToks that allude to this or are about this or whatever. But so I need to caveat all of this with a couple of very important things. First one, if you love this movie, it is not my intention to damage your love or appreciation or whatever of this movie. I don't want to yuck anybody's yum. There are enough people on the internet that make an existence out of crapping on other people's joy. That is not the goal here. Second thing, I was a lightsaber kid. Now, you may be surprised to hear this, but I've been a nerd my whole life. Just, whole life. And I was a dinosaur kid, as all rational, reasonable kids are. And Jurassic Park came out when I was in 5th grade. And so I saw that movie. It was the summer before I went into 5th grade. And this is where this is important to know. I did not read the book first. I read the book after the fact, and then like the shit list grew as a result of all these things. Now, as a child, my favorite dinosaur was the Deinonychus. And this is a dinosaur that I say that, and we'll go with 98% of the population looks at me and goes, "What?" But you already know what a Deinonychus looks like. Because it looks like the velociraptors in Jurassic Park. Because an actual velociraptor is like somewhere in the neighborhood of the size of a lab. And so if you have a lab or a golden retriever, it's about how big they are. Now, they're dangerous, and like they would definitely be able to harm a human being. But what we experienced in Jurassic Park was a brilliant killing machine that was slightly taller than a person. Now, later on, I read the books, and the books refer to them as raptors and put them at 6 feet tall. And so what I did a little bit of research before this particular podcast, because I wanted to make sure it's like, all right, if I'm going to lay blame at somebody's feet, who do I blame? And the answer is I get to blame everybody, which is awesome. I did not expect to also have beef with Michael Crichton, but it starts with Michael Crichton. And so he wanted the velociraptors to be scarier. And if they are the size of a turkey, they're less scary. So he made them bigger. Well, but Michael Crichton, that's not a velociraptor that you're describing. That's a Deinonychus. Yeah, I just like the name better. All right. We're doing rude gestures off screen just in case. I don't want us to get sucked.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And so opens with that. That was Crichton's. That was his choice. Now that gets even more complicated because at the time there were actually 2 different dinosaurs called a velociraptor. One was in Mongolia, and one was the earlier discovered velociraptor. And it turns out they were 2 different species. And there's also a paleontologist at the time that's like, all these dinosaurs with the hook, claw, toe thing, like, why aren't we just lumping them all together? Like, why aren't they all raptors? And that didn't gain steam until after Jurassic Park and, like, raptors got cool. But so here I am. I'm in elementary school. I've been teased about being a dinosaur fan for, as long as I've been alive to be teased. And my favorite dinosaur is the cool thing to come out of the dinosaur movie of that summer. And everybody's like, yeah, Velociraptor. And I'm just like, no, you stupid bandwagoners. That is not right. It is not a Velociraptor. 5th grade me was not quite like that. 5th grade me was not as confrontational because I hadn't had as long to ferment with this rage.
It does just kind of build as you get older.
Right.
I love it.
Everything. Everything gets saltier with time. But then the Velociraptor, this thing that for me is the poser, gets a fighter jet named after it and a basketball team.
And a pretty cool truck from Ford now. Don't forget that.
Right. And it's all of a sudden Raptor is cool. This is an awesome thing. And I'm just like, oh. Now,
was it the roller coaster named the Raptor too?
It was.
I think there is.
Yeah.
Cedar Point, I think.
Yeah,
See?
I think you're right.
We're just adding to the list. We're putting more names. But so it gets to the movie. They're adapting the book to the movie, and Spielberg's like, they should be bigger. So they size them up again and so then there are a lot of people that, when I talk about misnaming of the Velociraptor, they go, oh yeah, they actually use the Utah Raptor. That the Utah Raptor was discovered kind of sort of during filming, but didn't get announced until after the movie was out. And the Utah Raptor is another size bigger. And it's, right here in the United States, because we needed more giant, scary dinosaurs from the US. But yeah, so Crichton, he started the problem because he thought the name was cooler. And then he followed up with, as the movie adapted, Spielberg was like, no, we're going to keep this. And there was definitely somebody who was like, well, but this is a different dinosaur. We should call it something else. No, we're just going to make it bigger. We're going to stick with Velociraptor because it sounds cool. And we got to respect the book, et cetera, et cetera. So it didn't ruin Jurassic Park for me. I still enjoy it. I've enjoyed the Jurassic World movies. But that is something that has lingered, that I have been waiting to have a platform to get to say for 23 years, something like that, 24. We're in that zone. Long enough that bitterness can drink.
I was gonna say, long enough for that, yeah.
All right, I monopolized enough time. I feel awkward and guilty.
Jurassic Park came out in 1993.
Yep.
Okay.
Long overdue rant.
All right. Well,
and they should have feathers.
Yes.
I feel bad because I feel like you have done way more research over the years on this than my recent nerd rage. So when we get to me, it's going to be like, and this is why I didn't like it. Oh, okay. So
that's why you're going last, because by then people will have mostly forgotten what.
Well, I'll be ready to tap out. It'll be fun.
That's kind of what I'm hoping for. We can just kind of gloss right over my poorly laid out nerd rage. So,
well, you're assuming that people will still be on by the time we get to.
Well, that's also why we put me last, because I figure I talk enough during the rest of the show that maybe I don't need to have as much time at the end.
Probably.
So, but in case you didn't see this, Alan, John, Kathleen's husband. I
was just reading this.
Yes, he agreed with you. So he had the toy.
Actually, when I mentioned this to him last week, when it was this is what we're going to talk about this week is the dinosaur rant, he's like, I know, I hated that. I'm like, yep, dino nerds.
I need to be friends with your husband. We need to go get a drink sometime.
So I totally wore my dinosaur earrings tonight just for you because.
Fantastic. Oh, look at that.
I did not.
They're cute little raptors.
I didn't wear mine either.
I'll see. I don't feel so bad now.
I'm just going to twist the knife. Just twist it.
Yep.
All right. Well, cool. I think anybody have any disagreements when, with anything that, all right. I didn't think so. And John, Jason, you say that like it's not a fact. We all understand that everybody's going to tune out when it's my turn. All right. So he's just salty that he's not on here.
I just need to watch Jurassic.
He's salty about the Jean-Claude Van Damme.
He's still salty about that.
He is not to be mentioned on the show.
Yeah.
And
he's still salty about that.
In case anybody is wondering what that means, Jason has a man crush on Jean-Claude Van Damme, and I pointed out the fact that he sucks. And it's never gone over well. So anyway,
not an opinion, just the fact that he sucks.
The fact that he sucks. Not that I even thought that it should be mentioned by somebody else, or that it could be that it was a fact. And Jason disagreed with me a little bit, a smidge. So anyway, he's only brought it up a couple times at his show. All right, so
every show.
All right, John. Speaking of Three Geeks Podcast,
I gotta be honest.
Logan's Run.
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you. This was a hard one, but I picked Logan's Run for two reasons. One, as a whole, the movie did not hold up as well as I thought it did from my first viewing of it way back when. In fact, I don't even know when that was. It was sometime over at my aunt's house on HBO. So I don't know. That's somewhere in the early 80s. Anywho, it did not hold up well. But my whole thing that bothers me about Logan's Run, besides the fact that Farrah Fawcett's in it, is why 30? Like, that's the thing. And I know that's not a science per se. That's more of a social science. But I was very bothered by this whole idea that 30 is when the thing goes off in your hand. And then you have to go to carousel and maybe die, maybe not. Why 30? Because when you think about it, most of your major diseases don't come till 50, right? Like colon rectal cancer. You need to get that screened in 50. So you got 20 years. Shingles, again, 50 years old. HPV, 11 or 12 years old. Okay, that one maybe not so much. Okay, but I mean, you have all these diseases, but they come in your later years. So why not 30? And look, let's not lie to one another. 30 is when you hit your stride. I don't know about you all, but my 20s, that's kind of a mess. So 30, you're hitting your stride. You got things, you got a plan. You know how your life's gonna go. And, and then all of a sudden, well, so that always bothered me. In fact, I did some research real quick. So when the movie came out in 1976, excuse me, according to the U.S. Census, in 1970, the life expectancy for men, 67 years old. For women, 75. If you look at 1980, males, 70 years old. Females, 77. So it's not like, it's not like you can't, still have a productive life here. But I did find there was one weird thing, though. I'm not sure if this is correct. So maybe 30 is because you're still young and virile. And then after you, you start aging, you don't have the same strengthen your baby batter or whatnot, and so
31, the wheels just come off the wagon. That's when it happens.
That's basically it. However, in 1976, by the way, we had the lowest ever birth rate in American history, by the way, of only 15%.
76, baby, right here.
Yeah. Well, you're one of 3.1 million.
Oh, is that all?
So I always have felt like life is better after 30. That's right, Jason. Absolutely. Well,
slightly differing opinions.
Way to bring the negativity, Kevin.
That's just because my 29th birthday is coming up next month, and I'm getting.
Yeah, she's the baby of the group here.
30, however, is when your body stops producing collagen. Like your collagen production drops way off at 30.
Well, scratch my back with a hacksaw. I didn't know that.
And I am so glad that my husband is amused by me staring down the barrel of 30. Jerk.
Well, that's just because he's old.
He is, significantly.
So there's my presentation. Logan's Run.
Probably need that, Jason.
The worst part is that no, I don't think anybody disagrees with you. We're all just sitting here doing the math in our head and contemplating our own mortality now.
I'm still good. I've got another year.
I'm like, you're like, well, the really bad stuff doesn't happen till 50. I'm like, well, dang it, that's only 6 years for me.
I know. Yeah, right.
I'm 44. Come on, man.
Yeah. So, but by the way, just a side note, I do believe that Farrah Fawcett's one of the more overrated actresses ever. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it.
You're not wrong.
No. I mean, look, you watch Charlie's Angels, Jacqueline Smith. That's a dame. That's a dame.
All
not
right,
Farrah Fawcett.
But to be fair, John, you're talking about two different things. Like, Farrah Fawcett was never hired because she was a great actress.
The hell you say, Aaron?
I'm just saying. That's a separate podcast. We don't have
Sure, it is. It is.
Great points.
I super feel like the little yippersnapper now, though, because you said Charlie's Angels, and I'm like,
oh, the movie?
You're like the one with Cameron Diaz? Where was she?
oh yeah, that thing existed before that. Wow.
Was she Lucy Liu's character?
Way to go, Kathleen.
All
My
right.
blonde is showing.
And Jason's
Enough. I'm not over 50, Jason.
Look at him using the word game.
I appreciate
see?
his.
Yeah,
Thank
see, we
you,
got some
Kathleen.
names here. See,
It was a great dame. She had great stems, you know?
Look at those gams.
Look at the stems on that dame.
Huzzah.
Words like that should be used. It's a
They never
much
got me.
more polite way to talk to women.
Let me tell you, I can't wait to get off the Davenport.
Mm.
Go have a brewski with the fellas.
These
All
words
right.
I understand. Start talking about Charlie's Angels, and I figure out, yeah.
you're actually
My
starting to talk
brain
a
doesn't
language
make
she
sense.
somewhat understands. All right. All
I know
right,
what a
Aaron.
Davenport is.
Maybe.
All right, Aaron. Talk to
Okay.
us about Back to the Future.
I would love to talk to you about Back to the Future. I've been writing a couple notes as we've been going on here, and so thank you for putting me third so I can collect my thoughts. Just a couple of things that I've taken away so far. I'm really impressed, by the way, with John and Master Allen's different approaches to this topic. That was very impressive. So well done, gentlemen. I do have a couple of, if I may, just a quick constructive criticism for the podcast in general. Kathleen and Tim, your backgrounds are fantastic. I don't know if any of you follow the Twitter account Rate My Skype Room. It's a Twitter account that takes screenshots of people like on the news or CNN, Fox News, or whatever, and then they rate their backgrounds. They're like, oh, good lighting, good framing, a slight visible cord violation. Nick has a background which Rate My Skype Room people would refer to as a hostage video. So, don't laugh too hard, Alan. I was going to mention that for you too.
Oh no, mine is. I've got the camera at a downward angle instead of upward. See, this is what happens when you've got two kids under 5 and you have to find some place when it's 90 degrees out. Like it was this or my car. Those were my options.
So what Alan's saying is he is enduring a hostage situation
Right, he's got
right now.
kids under the age of 5. He
This
is in a
what
hostage
being a
situation.
father is.
So there is that. Nick, I'm just teasing you.
You should see the rest of this room. It is.
Is there a man with a
We're
bag?
taking
over
a
his head?
camera off. Oh, it's
Wait,
There's
Great
a
pink.
bucket where you go to the bathroom in.
Yeah,
in the
it is a
corner.
hostage situation room.
There's
Nick,
a
hold up
slot
a
where your
newspaper so
food
we know.
goes.
Hold up today's newspaper so we know you're okay today.
As long as there's
Turn
not
you
like a
guys to the
creepy
window.
porcelain
Is that
doll in the
better or
corner, you
worse?
should be okay.
Nick,
true.
blink twice and we'll come rescue you.
Wait, what is 3 times me?
Okay, so there's that. Tim, did you tell everybody your podcast cohorts about my criticism of your Thundercats episode? Have you?
no, I have not shared that. But please feel free.
Okay, just real quick, and then I swear I'll get into Back to the Future because I can't wait for this.
Back to the Future is a bold choice. Like I really want to know where you're going with this.
Well, I've got it in multiple parts. So
This is good.
But
Solid work.
after I learned that Tim had and you guys had talked to what was the guy's name? Larry
Yeah.
Larry Kenny, the voice of Lionel.
Larry Kenny. The first thing I asked him was, did you ask Larry about the famous outtakes, the Thundercats outtakes? And Tim was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I was like, there's a YouTube clip where somebody had gathered all these outtakes from recording sessions from the Thundercats, including Larry and many of the other voice actors on the show, and they're just swearing and cutting up. And somebody put video of the actual Thundercats episodes up against the audio of the outtakes, and it's hysterical. Tim had no idea about it. What a wasted opportunity.
I do feel like I did not do my stalking research as well as I should have done.
That's okay. I've just given you a hard time,
Ride the fail train, Tim.
Well, and it's one of those things where he's probably been asked about it 1,000 times anyway, so it would have been like, oh, here's that question about the damn outtakes again.
Get a canned answer instead of like something organic.
Okay.
Although it really sounds like Aaron just really wants to interview that guy. Like it sounds like that's like he's mad at you because he wants to get to ask.
It was a lot of fun.
No, I mean, I would have liked to have been a part of the interview so I could at least bring it up and whatever. Anyway, So I'd like to, because Alan gave a little bit of background on his level of nerdery and history and all that, and so that kind of inspired me to do the same thing. So my level of nerdery exists on probably very different levels than most people involved and or that watch this podcast or listen to. I'm more of like Monty Python. I collect vinyl records, and I'm a big music nerd, as Tim and Kathleen will attest to. I'm not a big Star Wars guy. I know Master Allen's going to cut me in half with a lightsaber for just saying that. I don't dislike any of it. I'm just not into it.
I was looking for my pearls so I could clutch them.
They don't. It's like people can like what they want to like,
Exactly.
Like and the animosity in nerddom. Like if you tell somebody that you don't like something that they build their passion around, and their need for you to love it like they do, those are people that I really struggle to have any kind of productive conversation with.
No, you're totally right.
Because it just
exactly.
So
I go strongly with the theory, love what you want to love, like what you want to like. It's your life. Unless it's Jean-Claude Van Damme and then it's just stupid. So
there is an extreme amount of gatekeeping in fandoms.
Horribly so. Horribly so.
Yeah.
JCVD is how he should be referred to as now from now on.
Although that movie is awesome. JCVD. Yeah. That movie's great.
Sure it is. So I'm more like I'm definitely not into Marvel. I have consumed zero Marvel content except for WandaVision, which was kind of a mistake because I saw the preview for it and I was like, oh look, a quirky black and white sitcom about a robot husband, and I'm like, oh, this looks interesting, and I watched it.
That's not what you got into. That is not.
No,
that is not what they deliver.
I got to the second episode. I'm like, what the hell am I watching? Like, what is this? So I asked my 14-year-old daughter, who has consumed a lot of Marvel. I said, do you have to know a lot about Marvel stuff to understand WandaVision? She was like, yeah, you kind of do. I was like, okay. So I tapped out of WandaVision, and then everybody was talking about the finale. I tapped out of like 3 or 4 episodes in. So I tapped out. Everybody's talking about the finale, and I was like, okay. My daughter's like, well, you could still watch it. And, okay. So I watched it. I enjoyed it, but not on the same level. So anyway, that's my WandaVision story. Okay, Back to the Future. Forget the idea that I'm not going to get into the whole is time travel possible thing, because there are people who are way, way more educated and smarter than I am that still debate this. The consensus seems to be that traveling into the future is less possible than traveling into the past, based on my very sophisticated Google research. It seems that that's what the consensus is between theoretical physicists and mathematicians and all these nerdy guys. So, and we'll also forget about the fact that 67% of the franchise, Back to the Future franchise, is just Marty and or Doc just yelling over loud noises or yelling incessantly and unnecessarily.
I have a question.
Yes.
You're saying that like it's a negative thing, and I feel that's a... Okay, I felt like that was a feature instead of a bug, and so that was... No.
It's just...
Okay, all right.
That was actually more
just
of
clarifying.
It was more of a failed attempt at humor, so forget that. So I can't even wrap my head around the whole time travel thing, but I've got a couple things about each part of the series. Some of them are science, some of them are semi-continuity errors, but so maybe you'll learn something. Maybe these are things you already know. So at the very end of part 1, so Marty has to take the DeLorean all the way down the street in front of the Bluebird Motel, where Doc has painted a line on the street. That's where Marty is supposed to start his run to get up to 88 miles an hour, and he's got that rod sticking out of the back of the DeLorean, where he's going to catch that wire right as the clock tower gets hit with lightning at 10:04 p.m. We all know that. So Marty's down at the line. He goes to crank up the DeLorean, and it doesn't start. He cranks up the DeLorean when the alarm clock goes off. That's when he's supposed to go. The alarm clock rings, hit the gas, and go. But for like 30 or 40 seconds, he's fiddling with the ignition, trying to get it to start, and it doesn't start. He finally bangs his head on the steering wheel, and it starts. But he's leaving 30 or 45 seconds, whatever it is. I've never counted. I'm not quite that nerdy. He leaves the starting line late. So if he had left the starting line when he was supposed to leave, he would have hit the line early, right? Am I wrong on that?
No, you're right.
No.
Right. So
So it wouldn't have worked.
that's something that's just always bugged me. Now, something they got right with this scene, and we've seen it a couple times throughout the franchise with the DeLorean. DeLoreans are known to be just absolute pieces of garbage. Like, they're terrible. So the fact that it didn't start, that's realistic. Like, that was a real thing.
I'm surprised that you never like open the glove box and there's some leftover cocaine from John DeLorean in it. You know, like, oh, what's this?
That's a whole different thing there. Another thing about part one, this is kind of sciencey. At the end, Doc he shows up at Marty's driveway and Jennifer's there, and they're going to take the new truck for a spin. So Doc pulls up in the driveway, and and I'm trying to read my notes here. He says, so he uses all this garbage from Marty's family's garbage to puts it into Mr. Fusion, like a banana peel and a
aluminum can. Yeah,
it's a can of Miller Genuine Draft, and he pours the beer in, then dumps the can in. Which I don't know why you needed to do that, but just dump the whole thing in if it's all going to the same place anyway. Yeah. So sciencey, there's no way that banana peels and beer cans and likely day-old warm beer would power a nuclear reactor. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing too. He stole all that plutonium from God knows where. How much plutonium? Yeah. Well, he was supposed to steal it.
They stole it from somebody else. Yeah,
and he gave the Libyans pinball machine parts.
Right.
Everybody knows that.
Are you straight now? Would like to know if you thought a Buick would have been a better choice.
Probably. I mean, just it's a more sensible vehicle. It doesn't look as cool, but it's more sensible. Doc, come on. But
it doesn't have the gull wings. It's harder to film.
I know.
There's so much more room in the trunk for activities.
Yeah. So how much beer did he need to power the Mr. Fusion flux for the flux capacitor and all that? Like, whatever. Okay, so in part two, so that's my part. I've got a ton more for part one, but I'm just trying to keep it short. Part two. Now everybody talks about the self-tying laces on the Nike shoes that Marty gets when he goes to 2015. Mm-hmm. Everybody talks about that, but I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about the jacket that Marty wears, and not the fact that it's got retractable sleeves. So let me back up. So
the self-drying jacket?
The self-drying jacket. We're going to talk about that. So just for anybody who's not familiar, which I won't judge you, Marty gets falls into the pond that's in front of the 2015 clock tower in Hill Valley. So he's soaking wet, and he goes to hit the automatic drying on his jacket. So when the jacket dries off with the auto dry feature, it takes like 5 seconds to dry him off. The amount of air he'd actually need to dry off from being completely soaking wet has to be more than 5 seconds. Like it has to be much more powerful air for a much longer period of time. But I understand it's a movie that you got to keep it moving. The amount of air that it would have taken to dry him and the jacket off in 5 seconds, it would have imploded his body, and I'm not buying it. I did have one more thing about part two. The pizza rehydrator at the McFly home.
Oh yeah,
a small disc gets about this a little bit smaller than a CD gets put into this Black & Decker rehydrating machine. A few seconds later, boom, a full ass pizza. Like, not buying that either. That's.
Well, that's future pizza. You don't know.
Yeah, and we're not talking about hoverboards. Like, I'm not talking about hoverboards either.
All the other stuff that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, all the things that we were promised and didn't get.
Or the fact that in 2015, the producers of that film thought that every home in America would have not just one, but multiple fax machines in each home. And including one in the closet, and the fact that these fax machines were dot matrix printers. I had a dot matrix printer with my Tandy 1000 computer.
Could you imagine all those going off at the same time? It would be deafening.
Yeah. But you know what though? Shout out to Radio Shack. May they rest in peace.
Right?
Our local pizza place had a dot matrix for their receipts up until like 3 years ago.
No
Tim,
judge.
Wow.
Tim, who knows what a K car is?
Just us older folks.
I
John,
guess.
thanks
It's a
for bringing
nice
that up.
reliant
Not
automobile.
me.
You don't know,
That's a
Kathleen? You don't know what a K car is?
I don't.
And a, and
You
a
got to Google that.
Have you ever heard
Giants
the,
reference?
Have you
Or
ever
is
heard the song? Have you ever heard the song "If I Had $1 Million" by Bare Naked Ladies?
Bare Naked Ladies. That's what it is.
Yeah.
A nice reliant automobile.
It's a nice reliant automobile.
That's right.
Okay. So continuing with part 3 of Back to the Future, Marty's great paternal grandmother looks just like his mother. This is
Convenient
that's-
that way.
This is one of those things where it's like they just had to put Leah Thompson in somewhere, and that was the only place they could really use her. So it is just a movie, but
Put this
it is
apron
kind
on.
of,
Nobody will notice.
also, this is not a science thing. This is just more of like fashion. But Clara, Doc's girlfriend, she is so in the late 1880s or mid 1880s. She shows a far too much cleavage for the amount of fashion that they had at the time. So that's something that's not right. So at the beginning of part 3, Doc's 1955 dog Copernicus finds Emmett Brown's tombstone, which tells me that somehow Doc Brown taught that dog how to read.
I mean, of all the other leaps we have to make for this film, like,
That
If
might be one
anybody
of the
could do
smaller
it, it would
ones.
be Doc Brown.
really, I mean,
I do love the fact that in the very first movie, Doc spends all this time preaching to Marty about not violating the timelines,
Space-time continuum, yeah.
space-time continuum, and then basically in episode 3, it's I'm gonna have relations with the space-time continuum and make some children. So
And that's how you become your own grandfather.
pretty much.
Pretty much. There is one somewhat racist line in part 3 where Doc Brown is there. 1955 Doc Brown is looking at the DeLorean that 1885 Doc Brown put into the cave, and he said, "No wonder these microchips don't work. They're made in Japan." That's a little racist. The last thing I wrote, I'll skip the whole thing about the Indians and the cavalry.
Right.
All that. There's one biological thing here. Marty gets chased out of that cave by a black bear. I'm fairly certain a 17-year-old kid from Hill Valley, California, could not outrun a giant 500-pound black bear, which he did.
low probability.
Low
Probability, especially because I don't think black bears are in the desert.
Yeah.
Black bears are out west, and they get bigger than the eastern black bears.
Yeah.
But still, that's
All right.
So the last thing I just have one more thing.
All right. Fire
Last
away.
thing, I swear. So
Awesome.
Marty tells Doc that the fuel line in the DeLorean got ripped when he was being chased into the cave, right? So you remember that. Doc tells Marty that Mr. Fusion powers the time circuits in the flux capacitor, and that the combustion engine works on regular gas and always has. But wait, when Doc shows up at the end of part 1, he tells Marty and Jennifer that he needs fuel, so he's dumping the banana peels and the beer cans and stuff into Mr. Fusion because he replaced the gas tank with Mr. Fusion. Well, which one is it, Doc? Help us out here.
the car also flew.
Yeah. Well, he had a flying conversion added in the mid 20th century or early 20th century.
Right.
So I could go on, and some of this is science, some of it's not, but I hope that fit the
No, it's
thing
good.
we're trying to do here. I'll stop
Well
now.
addressing the prompt.
Here's the thing. Aaron absolutely adores Back to the Future. It's one of his favorite things, and this is something he could talk about. I think for hours on end each.
Sure. Oh,
Each individual movie. So.
And to add to the preface at the beginning of the episode, I love the franchise. It is my favorite thing. I watch it every year on July 4th or July 3rd. Right when it was the anniversary part 1 being released, I kind of set up the whole day. I love it, and I would change nothing about it. But I just love talking about it, and I appreciate the opportunity to get to do that. Hopefully, everybody learned some stuff.
Sure did.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Nick, talk to us about the poorly laid out in physics Superman?
Well, it's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's Hollywood's bad physics. So Superman 1, that was kind of the launch pad for a lot of like superhero movies. And so it's still a classic and I still love it. But when
we're not going to slander Christopher Reeves, are we? Because like if that that's not the road we're going down.
No, not at all.
All right, okay.
So when Superman first catches Lois and she's falling, and then he like swoops up to catch her, he catches her at 174 miles an hour,
like terminal velocity, right?
Yeah. So she would have a lot of broken bones, if he actually caught
Bad
her
for the anatomy
like that. Also in the movie, Jonathan Kent dies, and so we realize, okay, Superman isn't everything. He can't, bring people back from the dead. Well, until he can, because Lois Lane ends up dying in that earthquake because Lex Luthor nuked the fault line. And so he flies around backwards, and well, I think Spider-Man actually came down onto Gwen instead of.
Well, but she hits the ground, and that's the
yeah, and so then he flies around the Earth backwards. Mm-hmm. And a lot of physicists are like, if you stop the Earth's rotation, everything is going to pretty much fling off of the Earth. And so then, which is worse, the nuking of the fault line or the everything
sending everything into outer space?
I'm not sure that's how that works, Jason. Just FYI. It's worth a try, though, buddy. It's worth a try.
So
I think it was.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. This is your turn, not my turn.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I still enjoy the movie, and I think ever since they did that, they're like, I feel like it was one of those things they already filmed her dying, and then they were like, wait, we need her in more movies. So how do we bring her back?
Makes the world go round.
I think it was in Big Bang Theory they talked about that, and Sheldon Cooper says that it would have been kinder if he really loved her. It would have been nicer for him to just let her hit the ground, because as the Man of Steel, he would have cut her into 3 even pieces. So,
oh, sweet Sheldon.
So, let's see. Donner cut of 2. They went back to that also. So, but yeah, okay. So yeah, did it affect how you view the movie though? I think you already said so. Didn't you?
Not really. It's just kind of. It's kind of like, okay, I'll let it slide this time,
but, and then I'm going to rewatch it.
Then I'm going to expect physics in my superhero movie.
All right.
I don't want science in my science fiction
movies. It's all about suspending reality,
Right.
Oh, yeah,
can you suspend reality enough to enjoy it?
I mean, it is called science fiction for a reason, like Kathleen was saying.
Right. All right, Kathleen, let's talk about you and the movie that I have slept through 4 separate times.
I think I've actually only ever seen the movie once, but I went with Armageddon. And
oh, this one's Chockerbock. Oh yeah,
it's bad. It is so bad. So I sent this article to him earlier. It's an article from Looper about sci-fi movies that scientists can't stand. And the headline or the subheading is Armageddon wasn't right about much. And that it continues that NASA uses it in training to make sure that recruits can find most of the errors. 168 of them in total in the 151 minutes of the movie. I mean, they're not nice about it. Tonight. It's
awesome.
Hey, folks, this is what not to do.
Right? And I love that it is used by NASA to make sure that they can find all the most of those errors because there are so many of them. Talking about where is it?
So there's a mention of Jurassic Park.
Yes, Interstellar. There's a lot in this list.
It's like in elementary school when they give you two pictures and tell you to spot all the differences, except it's
Right.
adults and it's a movie.
Yeah.
And they're rocket scientists.
So
it mentions in here that we don't
There
have
we
room
go.
to mention all of the scientific errors that they found, but some of the highlights include the idea of a comet redirecting a Texas-sized asteroid being ludicrous, that the asteroid shouldn't have been spherically shaped. It's like, yeah, there's so much more wrong with it than there is right with it. But kudos to NASA for using it for training videos.
Great soundtrack.
It does have a fantastic soundtrack.
Great
Really great
soundtrack.
soundtrack.
yeah, I have legitimately in my life sat down at 4 different opportunities to watch this movie, and I have not made it past the 15-minute mark. I have fallen asleep every single time.
I've
Yeah,
never seen it.
I
I've
started
never
the
seen
first
it.
Iron Man movie today because I know that it always puts me to sleep, and I hoped that it would work for my kid, and it did.
Nice.
Yep, we snuggled
Nice.
on the couch and watched Iron Man, and both fell asleep.
All right. Okay. So did it affect the way that you watched the movie?
I've only watched it once. I have only seen it once, and I don't think I can watch it again now.
So
I mean,
it's-
I might
bad.
watch it one more time just to see how many of the inaccuracies I can catch to see whether or not I qualify for NASA.
Fair
Because it's
enough.
obviously how that works.
For that
Yeah.
reason,
Well, then if you can learn to catch them all, then you could impress them.
Right.
Like,
at the very least, you can get into Space Force.
Exactly.
So there you go.
Fantastic.
Some couple of quick comments. Aaron seems to have left us for a moment. Shut off his camera at least. Let's see. Well, yeah.
Cause
See,
I'm
I never listened to a single word in that song because I did fall asleep. I did want to.
That song is creepy, though.
Michael, well, he does write his scripts in crayon as long as there's explosions at the end of the sentence. So
Well, the word boom just looks so much better in red crayon.
exactly.
and the little squiggly line around it.
That's a good point, John.
So
That's
many.
true. There was which is odd because I was actually doing weddings at that time, back in my DJing career, and yeah, at 1 out of at least every 3 weddings, that was their wedding song.
How many times do you hear it, Aaron?
Not often. It was a couple years ago where the big song was "Thinking Out Loud" by Ed Sheeran.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And people would say, "Oh yeah, we're going to use "Thinking Out Loud" as our first dance," and I would tell them, "Oh, that's a great choice. Very popular right now." And some people would be like, "Oh, really? Like, other people are using that?" I'm like, "Yeah, like
how dare they use our song?
every one of them." So some people would change it, and be like, "Oh, we're not doing that then," and other people were like, "Great, we're still using it." But
I feel validated. Excellent.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody else use our first dance song.
what was it?
Cream.
Love Let Us
the
Hear from
Wu-Tang
Muppet Treasure
Clan.
Island.
Yeah, I haven't heard that.
All right, so there's that Muppet Treasure Island.
Yes, I used a Muppet song for our first
I love
date.
it.
That
What's
was,
even better though is there is the credits version of it that is the non-Muppet version.
Yeah.
That John used most of that, except for the first chorus, he put in the Miss Piggy and Kermit verse,
Sure.
Vastly
and then went
superior.
back to the classic version. And the number of people at our wedding reception who did is that Kermit? It's like, yes.
Yep.
This is the wedding reception that just started with the impressive clergyman's speech. There's a TARDIS on our table. Why are you surprised?
What did you think was going to happen?
Muppet Treasure Island.
All
That
right.
was Tim Curry, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
As the
All right,
first
and to-
movie that my kids got to see Tim Curry.
Nice. All right, to round out our selections tonight, I have to start off by saying I'm sorry to Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford is the greatest actor of all time, in my opinion. My son Nolan's middle name is Harrison. Han Solo is one of the greatest characters ever created. I will argue that that is the hill I will die on. I love Indiana Jones, but I cannot stand the movie Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
It's a horrible movie.
It has so many things about it that are great, but there are two particular scenes that trouble me to no end. And I'll save the worst one for last. But the first one, there's a scene where these ants pick up a man, carry him in, and put him down the ant hole. Now, those ants are known as siafu. Those are actual ants. They do exist. They will and are known to kill the weak, the young, or the incapacitated. They have never, and on record, gone after a healthy human being who just got punched out. They didn't go after tires of the vehicle. They didn't, melt things like lava as they went through the screen, that's not what they do. But they can go into the lungs via the mouth or nostril passages, and they will go in and they will eat through the lungs. It is a true thing. It can happen, but not the way that it was portrayed in the movie. So it's like
that's scarier.
Thank you for the nightmare fuel. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ants that eat your lungs while you're breathing with them. Oh.
Right, but you would have to be
crawling under your skin during the Mummy.
You would have to be incapacitated or unconscious. So, I mean, we have to worry about that with Nick right now in his his hostage room. But you might not be wrong with that, John.
That is great. Great comment.
But so there was that, and that scene bugged me the more I watched that movie.
Nice use of the word bug.
I know, right? Because I own all the movies on Blu-ray, and so I was like, "Oh, I'll watch that," and I'd watch them over and over again. And that was one of the scenes that the more I watched it, the more it irritated me, and I couldn't stop watching. I had to I'd skip that scene. It irritated me that much. Now the other one got us to the point of, and Kathleen mentions it here, the nuclear fridge.
This part of the movie.
Now the thing is that phrase nuclear fridge has almost replaced jumping the shark, because there is no way that a 1950s style refrigerator, just because it has a little bit of lead in it, is going to protect you from a nuclear blast. You are going to be human carpaccio on the inside of that refrigerator, no matter what.
Gross.
And one of the things that I liked about one of the reviews I was reading, it said that, for as cartoonish as some of the things in, other versions of Indiana Jones has been, this was one of the worst, because it was like a scene right out of Wile E. Coyote, where the fridge gets shot out, and the fact that he made that 10-point landing without any injuries as well, by the way, it's just, at his age. So sorry, that's one thing ruined it. First name Mutt. No, well, you're not wrong. So
good. Well done.
But yeah, so those are the two things that I have, and I'm cutting it short because we only have about a minute and a half left. But those are the two biggest issues that I had with Holy Grail. And so again, Harrison Ford, please don't ever not come on my show because I said I didn't like one of your roles, because
We'll just blame it all on Shia LaBeouf. So.
I love you. How many parsecs did it take to the fridge? Well, it was under 12. We know that much. Nice. And Alan, I would love to be able to have more time to show off your lightsabers. But so if you could just hold them up in the screen while I'm sitting here talking.
That's all I'm doing. You just keep going. Do your thing.
But so I wanted to make mention that we brought up Friday's episode of Funny Science Fiction Podcast. What's upcoming? We have OG Banks. OG Banks is coming. OG is from Muppet Babies. He plays Scooter. On Ultimate Spider-Man, he plays Luke Cage and Power Man, and also Miles Morales.
You will laugh so stinking hard during that episode. We laughed so hard interviewing him.
OG is a trip, and we had an absolute blast with him. And remember, these awesome lightsabers that Alan is holding up can be found, and in the comments are in the links. Please go check them out. You guys will not be disappointed. And all I have to say, because we don't have enough time to say anything else, is thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody, for being part of the show. And see you guys next week on Funny Science Fiction Podcast. On behalf of the rest of the hosts of Funny Science Fiction, we'd like to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on one of our future episodes, please contact us by means of our Facebook group,
funny science fiction. You can find us on Twitter or Instagram
using the handle @FunnySci-Fi.
Or you can go to DraytonAllen.com and click the contact me link at the bottom of the page. Thanks again.
Hope you enjoyed the episode.